Is there any other names you think should be candidates for this?
I don't think the Oilers are going to want to go with an inexperienced coach.
I don't think so either. I think that's a long shot.
Mark Letestu has been getting a little bit of buzz. He's coaching the Colorado Eagles in the AHL.
Yeah,
they're having a really good
conference
year.
Finals.
Maybe he's an assistant or something like that they could bring in or something like that. But in terms of the actual head coach job, so we're looking for guys who have been around the game for a while, guys who have won. There's one other name that really jumps out to me, and it's Peter Laviolette.
Yeah, we mentioned him too.
I think he's the one other guy besides Cassidy that really ticks off those boxes that the Oilers are looking for. Obviously won the Cup in 2006. Once again, sorry, everybody. I think he'd be an interesting guy. He's been out of the league for a couple of years now. Number 9 overall in games coached in NHL history. One guy that I think could be really interesting, though, if he, again, wants it, Bruce Boudreau.
Really?
I think it could be an interesting guy. He doesn't have the success of winning, but he's always shown an ability to get the most out of his players everywhere he's went. I wonder if he's a guy that they reach out to and have a conversation with and gauge interest with, because I think he's a guy who could kind of...
What if the Edmonton Oilers have already shown us exactly who their next head coach will be without officially announcing anything? Sometimes the biggest clues in hockey don't come from insiders, press conferences, or leaked reports. Sometimes they come from one small detail hidden in plain sight. Right now, Oilers fans are searching for answers after the surprising decision to move on from Chris Knoblauch, and while several names have been connected to the vacancy, one coach continues to stand out above the rest. That coach is Craig Berube. At first glance, it might look like another coaching rumor, but when you examine the situation closely, one specific detail makes Berube look less like a possibility and more like the most logical choice for Edmonton. The Oilers are not rebuilding. They are not a young team searching for a long-term developmental coach. They are a team under pressure to win right now. When you have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl in their prime years, every season becomes incredibly important. Edmonton doesn't have the luxury of waiting 3 or 4 years for a coaching project to develop. The organization needs results immediately. That's why the discussion surrounding this coaching search has become so fascinating. Reports and debates around the vacancy have repeatedly highlighted one important idea. Edmonton may not be looking for a coach to lead the franchise for the next decade. Instead, they may be looking for the perfect coach to maximize the next season. That distinction changes everything. If the Oilers are searching for a one-year solution or a coach who can instantly command respect in the locker room, then the list of candidates becomes much smaller. Suddenly, Craig Berube starts making a tremendous amount of sense. Berube is not a developmental coach. He is not someone who needs years to implement his system. He is a coach who walks into a veteran locker room and immediately establishes accountability, structure, and discipline. That's exactly what he did during his most successful NHL coaching run. When hockey fans hear the name Craig Berube, they immediately think of the St. Louis Blues and their remarkable Stanley Cup championship in 2019. That championship wasn't won because the Blues had the most talented roster in the league. They won because Berube created an identity. His teams play hard, physical hockey. They forecheck aggressively. They defend responsibly. Most importantly, they understand their roles. That's the kind of environment many believe Edmonton could benefit from right now. The Oilers have elite talent. Nobody questions that. McDavid remains the best player on the planet. Draisaitl continues to be one of hockey's most dangerous offensive weapons. The roster is filled with players capable of competing for a championship. Yet despite all that talent, Edmonton has repeatedly fallen short of its ultimate goal. That's why management appears willing to make bold changes. Stan Bowman already made one major move when he decided to fire Knoblauch. That decision sent a clear message throughout the organization. Good is no longer good enough. The Oilers are chasing a Stanley Cup, and every decision is being evaluated through that lens. When Bowman discussed the coaching change, one particular comment stood out. He suggested that Knoblauch had been the right voice at the right time. That's an interesting choice of words. It implies that the organization believes a different voice may now be needed. Not because Knobloch was a bad coach, but because teams sometimes reach a point where a new message becomes necessary. Hockey history is filled with examples of talented teams benefiting from a coaching change. Different coaches bring different approaches, different standards, and different expectations. Sometimes that shift creates exactly the spark a contender needs. If Edmonton believes it has reached that stage, then Berube becomes an even more attractive candidate. The timing also works surprisingly well. Berube became available almost immediately before Edmonton's coaching vacancy opened. After 2 seasons in Toronto, he found himself back on the market. That means the Oilers wouldn't need to negotiate compensation or navigate complicated hiring obstacles. They could move quickly if they chose to pursue him. Availability matters in coaching searches, especially when the candidate already possesses the experience and credentials that management values. Berube brings both. Throughout his NHL coaching career, he has accumulated hundreds of victories while developing a reputation as a demanding but respected leader. Players know what to expect from him. He expects effort. He expects commitment. He expects players to buy into a team-first mentality. Those qualities often resonate strongly with veteran rosters trying to win championships. Edmonton certainly qualifies as a veteran roster. Consider how much hockey this core group has played over the last several years. Deep playoff runs create experience, but they also create pressure. Every postseason disappointment increases expectations for the next season. The Oilers have spent years chasing a Stanley Cup. They have come close enough to believe they can win it all, but not close enough to actually lift the trophy. That's a difficult position for any franchise. It creates urgency at every level of the organization. General managers feel it. Coaches feel it. Players feel it. Fans definitely feel it. When urgency becomes the defining theme of a franchise, management often gravitates toward proven experience rather than experimentation. That's another reason Berube's name continues to gain momentum. If Edmonton wanted a young coach with limited NHL experience, there would be plenty of options available. But a team in win-now mode usually looks for someone who has already navigated the pressures of championship expectations. Berube has done exactly that. He has experienced playoff battles. He has managed veteran personalities. Most importantly, he has already proven he can guide a team all the way to a Stanley Cup. Of course, none of this guarantees that Craig Berube will become the next head coach of the Edmonton Oilers. Hockey is unpredictable. Coaching searches often take unexpected turns. New candidates emerge. Interviews reveal new information. Organizations sometimes surprise everyone with decisions nobody anticipated. But when you look at the evidence available today, Berube checks almost every box Edmonton appears to value. He is experienced. He is available. He commands respect. He has a championship pedigree. Most importantly, he fits the timeline. If the Oilers truly believe their championship window is right now, then hiring a coach who specializes in maximizing veteran contenders makes perfect sense. That's why the one-year coaching discussion may ultimately be the biggest clue of all. It suggests Edmonton isn't planning for 5 years from now. They're planning for next season. They're planning for the next playoff run. They're planning for the next opportunity to finally deliver a Stanley Cup to a fan base that has waited far too long. When viewed through that perspective, Craig Berube doesn't look like a random coaching rumor. He looks like the logical answer to Edmonton's biggest question. Whether the organization ultimately agrees remains to be seen. But as the coaching search continues, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. The strongest clue about Edmonton's next head coach may already be sitting right in front of us, and that clue points directly toward Craig Berube.